Great. Hello, everyone. We are here today to kick off the Global Blockchain Business Council 2022 Virtual Blockchain Central Davos. And this panel is the consumer and the creator entering the metaverse. So I'm very excited to have the panelists here today. And we'll start out with a brief introduction. So we'll let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into a lively discussion on the metaverse. So Heidi, would you like to start and introduce yourself?
Sure. So first of all, please forgive my voice. I have COVID. Despite trying to avoid it as much as possible, I wasn't able to escape. But thank you so much, Karen, and to my fellow panelists and to GBBC and to the entire team for all of your efforts in putting this together. It's a real honor to be here. My name is Heidi Pease. I am the co-founder of POA, which is a blockchain-based protocol that helps to empower the creator economy by helping with all types of creatives, whether they're artists, to musicians, to athletes, influencers, and social impact projects, connect with their patrons, fundraise for projects, market those projects, and also engage and bring in brands as well, utilizing digital tools such as NFTs and social tokens. And we use ours built on layer 2 protocols that are eco-friendly, such as Palm at this point. I also have 2 other hats that I wear. One is I am the president of GBBC Giving. We focus on reducing the digital divide for all underserved communities throughout the world and introducing them to blockchain. And then I am also head of investment products for a top 5 SEC registered crypto and digital asset management firm in the United States.
Excellent. Thank you, Heidi. Justin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. Justin Banon. So I'm a co-founder of Boson Protocol and also Boson Portal and a couple of other applications. So Boson Protocol is a core piece of Web3 infrastructure that enables smart contracts to execute real-world commerce transactions without an intermediary, and using NFTs sort of encoded with game theory. And on top of that deep tech, we've built a really piece of cool tech in Boson Portal, which is a marketplace sort of commerce expo in Decentraland, enabling brands to sell physical items as NFTs in the metaverse.
Thank you and welcome. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Andrew Kiguel. A little about myself. I was an investment banker for 2 decades, made a pivot to being a blockchain entrepreneur in 2017 as the co-founder and CEO of a company called Hut 8, which is one of North America's largest Bitcoin miners. I left that business in 2020 to start Tokens.com. Tokens.com is really a Web3 investment firm. We're most notably getting attention lately for doing one of the largest land purchases in the metaverse. We purchased a very large parcel of land for about $2.5 million in Decentraland through our subsidiary Metaverse Group, which currently holds an 8-figure portfolio of various metaverse real estate.
Great, thank you. And our 4th panelist, Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. This is Alex. I'm the Deputy CEO of Sensorium Corporation. I used to be a banker in my past as Andrew. I used to work in the fintech field, and with my colleagues from the banks, we developed a master chain, which now is a real-time infrastructure for central bank digital currencies in Russia. I also work with R3, and now I work as a digital entrepreneur, and I'm in charge for the corporate finance, digital products, crypto, and new blockchain initiative that we're developing in the Sensorium Corporation. Sensorium itself developing the AI-driven metaverse. The product is already available on the marketplaces. You can download the app and test really new, crazy features about AI digital beings. Thank you for joining and inviting for GBBC Davos. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you to the panelists. And we'll jump in and get started. We'll start with Heidi, just a top line. So what is the metaverse, right? And where are we in terms of its development?
Sure. So I'm going to expose my inner nerd at this moment and tell you about one of my favorite shows growing up was Star Trek. And the reason being is on the Starship Enterprise, there was a chamber, a room called the holodeck, in which characters could go into this room, and through computer simulation, these characters could interact with other objects, characters, environment, in either a historic setting or any kind of setting you could imagine. Maybe they were visiting some other far off planet, or maybe they were back in time to some historic moment, or maybe it was a place that could only exist in the mind. And I remember watching that, just thinking, wow, how amazing would it be to have this place where you could engage with other people and create universes and have commerce. And it was just this whole alternative life. And I use that as, maybe that's not where we're at with the metaverse today, but I think in my mind, that is what we're building towards, is a place that could be a digital realm that may only exist. It could be a duplicate, a digital twin of our reality, or it could be something that could only exist in our imagination. Fast forward to 2016, and Facebook had launched their Oculus, and they had numerous pop-up experiences. And I remember putting on my Oculus glasses, and it was that first experience that I could have that I thought was like a holodeck. I literally was witnessing the moment that our universe was created at the Big Bang. There was another second where I was eye to eye with a dinosaur. And all the way to, there was a moment where I could sit in a common room shared with other people in Vietnam. You know, I couldn't taste things, feel, or smell, but I could see and hear. And the opportunity for me, anyway, when I think about metaverse, you know, we have many types of metaverses, whether they're just 2D or eventually 3D. But for me, it's truly a place where we can engage with others in a community. We can buy, sell, lease, create assets, digital assets. And basically anything that happens in the real world and more can be created there. The backbone of these metaverses will be built on blockchain, whether that is the cryptocurrency that's used or anything that has any kind of value will have to be either built on blockchain or some type of NFT. And actually, where are we today? Right, we're not at the holodeck where I would love to be, but companies like Deloitte Konsulting just launched about 5 days ago what they're calling Dimension 10 Studio, which is a virtual space in which enterprises can play in the metaverse to better understand how does this relate to business and commerce. So I really think that we are just at that first snowflake or snow crystal that's on top of an iceberg of opportunity. But really, the space is moving much faster than perhaps anybody would have anticipated. And that's thanks in large part due to the pandemic.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. 8 months ago, people would say, what is the metaverse? And today it's like, sign me up, you know, how can I get involved? So in light of what you said, I'd love to engage Justin and just understand from your business and your activities, what exactly is the relationship between the metaverse, NFTs, blockchain, and digital assets? And how do you see that with your business?
Sure. I think, I mean, the metaverse has many different forms, but I think that the two primary kind of categories are a closed kind of proprietary metaverse, the sort of metaverse, some would argue it wouldn't qualify for a metaverse, but the sort of metaverse that the likes of Facebook are building with Meta versus these sort of open economic systems. And I think, one vision of the future is, very much like, this kind of almost like a closed digital prison, and the other is this open economic system. And I think, and I'm working towards supporting the latter, this open system. And the things that are driving that are strong property rights, the fact that using NFTs and blockchains and digital assets, Metaverse is built on these technologies, give users assets that can't be removed. So, if you buy, an item, an NFT or an asset in a sort of blockchain-based world, you can have that as a family heirloom forever. Whereas if you bought that same asset in like Roblox, for example, well, that could be arbitrarily deleted. And I think, the history of economics shows that wherever there's strong property rights, there's a strong incentive for economic systems to grow on top of them.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I like what you said about the land assets. And with that, I'd love, Andrew, for you to share a little bit more about your involvement with the Metaverse and how you see land assets and kind of the integration of all of the NFTs, blockchain, et cetera.
Sure. So I took a different approach to the Metaverse. When I started seeing these various Metaverses that were in existence, I recognized that they have a limited amount of land available for people to purchase. And with growing demand and a limited amount of it available, I thought this would be a great investment as a storage of value. And it had a lot of the same attributes as Bitcoin. That was the first thing that intrigued me and got us into buying real estate in the Metaverse. But as we got into it, I started realizing there was all these portals for commerce and ability for us to monetize it. And I'll give you two examples. With the land that we bought in Decentraland, which is the largest state in the fashion district, we're teaming up with Decentraland to hold a large fashion show March 24th to 27th. And this is going to try to replicate the experience that you might have going to London Fashion Week or Miami Fashion Week with, models walking down a runway, various brands showing their merchandise, selling NFTs, and there being after parties. And it's not just the fashion brands that are looking to be involved. We have luxury automobile brands that we're speaking to that want to sponsor the events, maybe as ways of introducing some of their electric vehicles, various things. But generally speaking, wherever you're going to be able to draw a crowd and have an event, there's an opportunity to sell advertising. And that's one of the things that we're working on. Another thing that we're doing that's interesting in the Metaverse is we're trying to be a virtual landlord, and we're creating something called tokens.com Tower in the crypto valley of Decentraland. Originally, that was supposed to be a prototype for us to build these types of structures for other companies. But what's ended up happening is a lot of people are coming to us, and we already have a list of people that want to rent out our conference space in order to hold their own events. And we also have a list of people that want to pay us to almost post billboards on the inside of our conference area. And these are people like podcasters, funds, lawyers, investment banks, generally anybody that would like to access this demographic. And so for me, coming from a finance background, and I like connecting public market investors to all these cool things happening in the crypto world, I see the Metaverse as a world of opportunity and really has been touched upon. But what makes this different from these closed metaverses or dealing in other forms of social media, and I think this is the next iteration of social media, but it's this ownership aspect that blockchain brings that makes it valuable. It's, I was writing the notes from before about this being sort of, irreplaceable. You have provenance, which is the authenticity and the origin of that good, makes this economic system quite viable and has the ability to grow. And that's fascinating to me.
I like how you talked about, a lot of what you talked about is how we interact, right, with each other in this new virtual world. I'd love to have Alex jump in. When we met earlier, you spoke about a new term called the software agent. So maybe you can share with us your definition of a software agent and how the Metaverse is really going to impact how we interact with each other from your perspective.
Yeah, thanks. On Monday, we spent for hours with my colleagues designing what is the metaverse inside, and we understood that itself, the economy of the metaverse will be driven not but by human, which may be weird to hear, but so it will be driven by software agent, which are the programs. Like if you can imagine the Matrix movie or movie Free Guy, where there is evolving NPC, those programs will be driving the economy of the metaverse. So as of now, such programs, they are most trafficked in the internet. So all of us know that bots are creating the most traffic in the like websites and so on, but they're not spans and they not earn anything, and then they not create the content. So imagine if they will be able to create a content and to spend and earn some coins for this activity. And that's those programs will be much more than the human actors, than the human users. So I do believe that in terms of the metaverse, those digital beings, I call them also software agents, they will be the most drivers of the digital economy. And since they will be spending and earning, I would say they will doing a money streaming. Like imagine you're joining something and you're streaming the money or liquidity. They will be boosting the NFT economy itself, not the human. Human will become the kind of architect. The human will design the whole ecosystem. Human will observe and enjoy how the things is working together. But those digital things, they will create the most volume of the users of the digital economy inside the metaverse.
Great. As you were speaking, I was just remembering some of the things Heidi shared with me before the panel session. But Heidi, I'd love for you to share also your perspective on the consumer, right? Entering the metaverse and what their experience will be like.
Yeah, sure, Karen. So I found it fascinating to hear about South Korea, that they are going to be launching the first major city to be launching a digital twin of itself. And I really see the metaverse evolving in three areas. One is the continuation of the gaming fantasy. You've got your Dragonlands, you've got the games that you see. And then on the far other end would be more of the basic, what we see in real life, but just the digital twin. And then somewhere in there could be a blending of the both. Well, Seoul, South Korea had announced that by the end of this year, it will be the first major city to have a digital twin, and it will be fully functional by the year 2026. But basically, their citizens can resolve any kind of governmental type of issues by sending their avatar. So imagine anything like, for me, for example, in Los Angeles, if I wanted to go to probate court, that would be an all-day situation. I would have to get in my car, face traffic for an hour, find parking, spend, $60, $75 for parking for the day, sit in line. It would basically be a full day process just to get to something like probate court, whereas my avatar could do something like this in just minutes. And if we just extrapolate that a little bit farther, imagine all of the other commercial opportunities that there could be. The last two cars that I've purchased, I've not gone to a dealer. I've just purchased them online. And enabling a metaverse that allows for more consumerism, that's a little bit more, or a lot more robust than what we're seeing in this 2D web interface, is the next step within the metaverse. And then I like to always look at things too with just a social impact lens. Imagine the education and the access that the rest of the world can have. So one of the projects that we've been working on the nonprofit side and with GBBC Giving is we've been working with some schools in Afghanistan, training young women on blockchain. And, despite the Afghanistan crisis, what a wonderful opportunity there would be if these same women could take classes, not just via Zoom, but really in an immersive environment where it felt so much more like they were truly in a class. So I just think about these are just the next logical steps and that we're going to be seeing happening in the metaverse. Something that we're doing with POA, although we're not directly a metaverse company like the other persons on the panel, I mean, you have to be, if you are in the NFT space, you have to be exploring the metaverse. So we're looking at what I was mentioning, the more digital twins, and we're working with a strategic partner that has designed digital twins of major cities. And the design element has been more so for things like Homeland Security training, Department of Defense, or even architects. And literally the system that they have set up is if there is a tree in Central Park and it comes chopped down, then you will see that same tree chopped down in their digital twin. So we are designing something. We've got a couple pilots in the works, one of them with a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. And we're looking to create, well, what is this in the real digital twin element, but blending in this, you would recognize them because they're very much into the psychedelic mushrooms and peaches. And so we're going to be overlaying on the real world some of these additional elements, but in an eco-friendly fashion. So we see that this is definitely the next place that the space is evolving into, is more of that real life meets the metaverse.
I think that's a good point in talking about using the metaverse for education, especially with remote learning being so prevalent these days. And it's not just for young kids, but think about higher education where you could have, a top medical professional lecturing students all over the world, regardless of their geographic location, in a 3D setting where you can perform virtual operations. You can have a body where you can look at the various types of anatomy in the body. Also, workplace safety. Imagine being able to recreate sensitive work areas, like maybe something that's heavily exposed to mechanics, like an automotive plant or a power plant, and you could recreate it and train employees as to how to perform under emergency situations, which might be particularly important in a power plant. And so there's all kinds of applications for the metaverse to educate people and to create simulations with the group and to teach that we haven't even touched yet.
I also, there's so much you can go with the metaverse, right? There's so many different angles you can take. From a consumer perspective, Andrew, I'd love for you to share more, what you shared with us on the consumer, right? There's so many opportunities for the consumer. You talked about branding, you talked about retail, you talked about, sales. Where do you think is the biggest opportunity for consumers to get involved?
So my thought is that the most immediate use for the metaverse is going to be gaming and social media. You're going to see a huge transition of the traditional gaming to blockchain technology. I think that's already started. And you're going to see really that the metaverses look a little bit like what you see in social media, where you're able to friend people and walk around with them and go to museums and participate in events that you might not be able to do together in real life for geographic reasons. As you have more people congregating in these areas, you're just going to have advertisers, retailers, and brands that want to educate that demographic about who they are. I talk often about my daughter and my son, who are both pretty young. They don't know what the difference between, Nike and Skechers is, or what Gucci or Prada are. They don't watch television. They don't read magazines, and, they're not walking around Fifth Avenue and Rodeo Drive. And so the metaverse is a great place for brands and retailers and advertisers to really educate people as to who they are and where they sort of fit into the retail category. And that's why I think it's very much, I've used this analogy before, but I think what blockchain technology allows people to do is, rather than having this centralized form of advertising, so if you're advertising on Facebook or Instagram, the money all goes to that corporation. Same thing with Google. What's different here about the metaverse is you can almost act as your own Facebook or Google. You can purchase a parcel of land. You can contribute to that economy, to that community, with your content. You can build a museum, an amusement park, whatever it is you want, or you can use it in a way to tap into that demographic who are going to be walking around that area. And again, that's something that is brought to us via Web3 technology in the blockchain.
There's so many developments. Oh yeah.
Can I add?
Sure.
I think we can disrupt itself the advertisement area in Web3.0 because like the whole problem for Web3.0, there's no like place for regulation vision, and while you engaging the new advertisement approach, I do believe that you can only stream your attention as a user, and you have to be paid back as you are streaming your attention. That's your asset inside Web3.0, and itself it will be disrupting the way it works the advertisement economy now. So the brands should be paying you for your attention in the metaverse, and they should be paying to your software agents or your digital beings that you own for their attention. And that's the whole point, because they're going to be the most drivers. And I think the whole idea how the advertisement market is working will be rapidly changed in the next couple of years.
If I can add to that too, yes, I 100% agree that the way that people they will be rewarded for witnessing and agreeing to view ads, and it's good. There will be a lot of change. But something that was really interesting for me, I had an opportunity to speak with the top 5 soccer league out of Europe, and they explained to me what they were looking at for the metaverse, and I thought this was fascinating. In the physical world, they are bounded by where they can actually put ads. You know, there's only so much space that they have in a stadium to put the names of the different companies. There's only so much space on a jersey or on the back of a seat or whatever. In the metaverse, and so then their revenue is capped. In the metaverse, it's limitless. It's really up to your imagination. So that was something that I thought, wow, that's really interesting as we look into the metaverse, and we're going to see, you know, what does that look like? Is it going to be ads in the sky? It'll be ads on my face. I don't know. But those boundaries are no longer.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there's other opportunities, right? Different types of opportunities in the metaverse. I'd love to hear from Justin. What do you see as some of the most important developments in the metaverse for you and your business?
So, yeah, I was similarly to what Andrew was saying. Boson protocol is one of the kind of core exhibitors at the fashion festival. So we're building out a whole fashion street. We've got lots of great brands and events happening. And what our technology enables is not just the sale of like digital NFTs, but brands can actually sell physical items as NFTs. And also, you know, touching on what Heidi was saying about sort of digital twins, actually, like, for example, sell a pair of physical sneakers with a digital twin. And we very much see this kind of twinning between the digital and physical world as, you know, a trajectory that everyone is on, whether it's the twinning of lands and having a digital mall and a physical mall, or of physical items. And I think fashion and luxury items are really leading the way there. And we can see that, you know, within a year or two, it's probably going to be unusual and certainly uncool to buy like a luxury item that in the physical world that doesn't have some sort of digital twin. And you know, our technology enables brands to do exactly that.
Yeah, I think within 24 months, every single large corporation, especially in the fashion world, will need to have a presence in the metaverse in the same way they have a website.
I absolutely agree. I mean, it's like a switch that's sort of flicked. From 8 months ago, it was like, what's the metaverse? To now, they have to have it. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, I think the metaverse, it's quite surprising actually, because I always thought mass adoption of crypto would come via probably something like DeFi, maybe gaming, but I think, you know, the metaverse and fashion are just, there's this huge tsunami of adoption, and organizations like ours, and really proud to be collaborating with your team, Andrew, and they're doing amazing things as well, and just creating this whole new reality and set of experiences, and it's just great fun to be doing it as well.
Yeah, and as you said, all the big brands are going to start getting involved. I was reading about Nike creating Nike Land, and hiring a person responsible for creating virtual clothes just for the avatars. So I think it's definitely in that direction.
You can create like as of now, people are creating NFT out of physical assets, and they can destroy like Banksy, the physical asset, to create NFT. But I think in future that should be instead controversial. You using first creating the digital asset, and then you have to get rights to create a physical assets. So like a kind of sustainability approach, ESG. If you can put all things together, I think the creation of the physical assets, decreasing of waste, it should be run out of the digital first.
I would even go on to say, with what you were saying, Alex and Justin, with a focus more on ESGs and the younger generation, who are more accustomed to living in a digital world and maybe are more conscious of environmental impact. When it comes to fashion, they may even not necessarily, they may be less interested in the physical item and more interested in the digital item, because that's where, their communities are really expanding, is in the digital universe. So I'm just curious to hear that from both of you. Would you almost say that in the future, the tendency will be leaning more towards digital items and less so towards physical?
I think the distinction is just completely blurring into one reality, where you can buy physical things in the metaverse, where you have digital overlays, where you've got, AR, when you see someone's handbag, you can click on it and have the option to buy it using something like Boson protocol and crypto. And I just think there's just going to become this merged reality, a bit like, how we live with social media and communications technology. And I think that distinction, we've started to use the phrase kind of omniverse and omniverse commerce, where it's like digital and physical.
Yeah, there should be, I think, some kind of new type of hardware. The physical assets that should be connected with Metaverse. Maybe we can call them like not a hardware, but metaware. Metaware, and they I agree with Justin. There are going to be some overlays on this metaware that we're going to be aware.
One thing that's interesting is that you can build social status. So in the same way today that people on Instagram might post pictures of where they're taking a vacation, I think in the future, because you can add friends in the metaverse and interact with them in the same way, it's just a more immersive form of social media. The new status symbol might be that NFT Gucci bag or that Adidas or Nike shoe. And what's amazing about the blockchain technology, there's so much overlap here, right? The metaverse is really a collection of NFTs with rules put together. But NFT technology allows for provenance, which is a term borrowed from the art world, which means the authenticity and origin history that can be verified. And the blockchain allows that. So somebody asked me once, what if you just created a fake Gucci NFT bag and wore it to the virtual party? I said, well, you could do that, but anyone can check the blockchain and see that it was not, you can verify that it doesn't come from Gucci and that it's a fake. And so I think it's really cool that people can buy these NFT wearables or assets, and you can wear them, you can store them, or you can resell them. And it's that resale that makes a lot of this economically interesting for the new players in the metaverse system.
Yeah, or possibly them as collateral in a DeFi lending.
There should be some balance. Like, if we will just putting the tracking system as an NFT for everything which we're wearing, that's going to be like kind of a prison. But I do believe there should be some open initiative. Like Gucci should allow people to co-create with Gucci. Like any artist should be available to take a Gucci bag and add something and upgrade its NFT. And that's what should be in place. But if we just put the NFT as a tracking platform, I don't think that we're going to be like create a better world. I think the better world if we will allow users to create and co-create, because what is actually the fake or like something? It's a kind of a copy, right? It's someone put in place, like, and someone adjust your vision of your product. Imagine you can legalize this. Imagine you can allow people to give some special license to add something to your product, and that's will drive the economy further, because you together are going to create something new, and that's bring new type of products on the market.
But I think Gucci might have a problem if people were just able to take their product and change it without their authorization. That there is, I think, a concept within NFTs of having something that is unique and scarce. And I don't know, we'll see how that ends up, because I don't disagree with you from a conceptual basis, but I think that there's a big market being made by people purchasing these assets that have a scarcity value, are irreplaceable and unique, but we'll see how that develops.
Yeah, digital environment allows to adjust things. You need to use these features.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to something that Heidi said. You said the young generation obviously is embracing the metaverse more, and I read somewhere like above 30, there was a little bit less interest. So how long do you think it's going to take for the masses to really embrace the metaverse?
Well, as soon as there's money to be made, I'm just going to say, as soon as there's money to be made for businesses, they're going to obviously jump in. That's maybe I have a little bit of a dark perspective on things, but so businesses, I think some of our other panelists have mentioned, here's a factoid that I just read today by IT consulting firm Constellation Research. They estimate that by 2030, the metaverse will be at $21.7 trillion industry. So that's, just really right around the corner, a $21.7 trillion industry. And that's probably going to start, as we see lots of innovation starts in art and entertainment and creativity. And we're seeing that now. I think maybe was it Justin or Andrew who'd mentioned where did they see that blockchain would start to take off more with the mass adoption? And somebody said DeFi, but it's really leaning more into NFTs. We're seeing that starting to take off more in the art culture space, where we've always seen that the arts and culture has always led in innovation in many, many ways. But once there's money to be made, we're going to see a lot of businesses jump in. And I think I had mentioned that Deloitte had launched their Dimension 10 studio, which really gives businesses and enterprises an opportunity to scratch the surface and explore what does that mean for them. So I hope I answered your question. I think it's going to happen sooner than later.
I mean, just to add to that, I know the stats are that crypto is adopting faster than any other sort of technology in history. And, obviously the metaverse is the fastest, adopting part of crypto right now. So, what does that tell you?
Yeah, what you were saying, Justin, something like 20% of all of the stimulus money that was printed here in the United States went into crypto. So that's how fast that's moving, for sure.
Every type of consumer technology used today is going to be disrupted by the metaverse. And when you talk about this being a multi-trillion-dollar industry, I think for the audience, they need to understand this extends to things like graphic cards. It extends to the hardware that you use. It extends to headsets and glasses, all types of hardware to be developed. If you look at the migration of the social media platform to the metaverse, that's already $1 trillion business that's moving over via Facebook. If you look at the gaming industry, that's $1 trillion business that's already migrating there. And so when you start adding up all of these various areas that are being disrupted, it is for certain going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry when you add everything up.
Yeah, I mean, you add to that, e-commerce, which currently is happening, with a flat screen. That's a bit like, black and white TV going to color TV. So if you're shopping, online with a flat screen versus having that immersive, real sort of 3D experience, but still having all the benefits of digital. I mean, that's like a $10+ trillion sort of industry as well. So yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's the kind of the inflection point that we've been waiting for in crypto.
I'd like to suggest for this conference, if you have another one next year or later this year, that we host it at the tokens.com conference center in the metaverse. That would be a game changer. It'd be very cool.
That's a great
and
yeah, and I think we just ran out of time. So I wanted to thank all the panelists for joining in. I want to thank GBBC and their entire team for putting this together. And I think to end it, in summary, right, the metaverse is going to be the next major online destination, right, for everything global, for everybody, right, from playing games to working to brainstorming to selling to interacting to probably dating at some point, right? So it's open to everything. And I'm really excited to meet all of you soon in the metaverse.